Happy Friday afternoon, everyone. Coming back with Job chapter 6 and 7. Just following up in our series from Tuesday. Wednesday and Thursday ended up getting kind of crazy. It wasn't until like 7 o'clock last night that I had a chance to sit down, and I was like, it's too late. So hitting on it today, I've been excited to actually do chapter 6 and 7, which I studied on both Wednesday and Thursday. So I just want to kind of give you kind of a backup and talking about chapter 5, and then we'll get into chapter 6 and 7. So just as a reminder, chapter 5 is Eliphaz's response to Job after the 7 days sitting with Job. And he's a bit cautious in the beginning, but then kind of moves forward into his message. And verse 7 of chapter 5 talks about how the righteous don't suffer. But in verse 8 says, those who iniquity sow and reap trouble. And so there is this assumption that Eliphaz has in chapter 5 that something of justice or discipline is required to Job, and that God is wounding Job through these inflictions that Job's experiencing, and he's doing it in order to approve him and to improve him. And so the Lord will do what is right, and obviously Job has done something wrong to deserve the judgment of God. In verse 27, as you see on the screen, he concludes kind of with this idea, behold, this we have searched out and it's true, hear and know it for your good. Eliphaz ultimately insists that Job remember the things that they've all experienced and come to know to be true, that God does good to good people and he does bad to bad people, and if Job's experienced bad, then there's probably something bad in his life. And so Job is now responding to Eliphaz. I'm going to read chapter 6 and 7. It's a fairly lengthy section, but here's what I want you to focus on. Listen to how Job feels. Listen to how Job feels about his torment. Now, there's a couple of points in this particular chapter that gives us the indication that Job probably it's been months since his family's passing. He's endured some time. And so we know it's been 7 days that his friends have been with him. But that's after they heard about the issue, they gathered together. There's probably a time ultimately between his family dying, his getting sick, and then another time before his friends showed up. So it's been probably months since this event, and he's getting pretty worn out of the distress. Just listen to that. So chapter 6, verse 1. Then Job answers and said, oh, that my vexation were weighed and that all of my calamity laid in the balances. For then it would be heavier than the sand of the sea. Therefore my words have been rash. For the arrows of the Almighty are in me, and my spirit drinks their poison. The terrors of God are arrayed against me. Does the wild donkey bray when he has grass, or does the ox low over his fodder? Can that which is tasteless be eaten without salt, or is there any taste in the juice of mallow? My appetite refuses to touch them. They are as a food that is loathsome to me. Oh, that I might have my requests, and that God would fulfill my hope, that it would please God to crush me, that he would let loose his hand and cut me off. This would be my comfort, for I would exult in pain unsparingly, for I have not denied the words of the Holy One. What is my strength, and that I should wait? And what is my end, that I should be patient? Is my strength the strength of stones, or is my flesh bronze? Have I any help in me when resource is driven from me? He who withholds kindness from a friend forsakes the fear of the Almighty. My brothers are treacherous as a torrent bed, as torrential streams that pass away, which are dark with ice and where the snow hides itself. When they melt, they disappear. When it is hot, they vanish from their place. Their caravans turn aside from their course, and they go up into the waste and perish. The caravans of Tema look, and the travelers of Sheba hope, because they are ashamed, because they were confident they have come and are now disappointed. For you have now become nothing. You have seen my calamity and are afraid. Have I said, make me a gift, or from your wealth offer a bribe for me, or deliver me from thy adversary's hand, or redeem me from the hand of the ruthless? Teach me, and I will be silent. Make me understand how I have gone astray. How forceful are upright words, but what does reproof from you reprove? Do you think that you can reprove words when the speech of a despairing man is wind? You would cast even lots over the fatherless and bargain over your friend. But now be pleased to look at me, for I will not lie to your face. Please turn, Let no injustice be done. Turn now, my vindication is at stake. Is there any injustice on my tongue? Cannot my palate discern the cause of calamity? Chapter 7, continuing. Has not man a hard service on the earth, and are not his days like the days of a hired hand? Like a slave who longs for the shadow, and like a hired hand who looks for his wages? So I am allotted months of emptiness, and nights of misery are appointed to me. When I lie down, I say, when shall I arise? But the night is long, and I am full of tossing till the dawn. My flesh is clothed with worms and dirt. My skin hardens and then breaks out afresh. My days are swifter than a weaver's shuttle, and come to their end without hope. Remember that my life is a breath. My eye will never again see good. The eye of him who sees me will behold me no more. While your eyes are on me, I shall be gone. As the cloud fades and vanishes, so he who goes down to Sheol does not come up, nor he returns no more to his house, nor does this place know him any more. Therefore, I will not restrain my mouth. I will speak in the anguish of my spirit. I will complain in all the bitterness of my soul. Am I the sea or a sea monster that you set a guard over me? When I say my bed will comfort me, my couch will ease my complaint, then you scare me with dreams and terrify me with visions, so that I would choose strangling and death rather than my bones. I loathe my life. I would not live forever. Leave me alone, for my days are a breath. What is man that you make so much of him, and that you set your heart on him? Visit him every morning and test him every moment. How long will you not look away from me, nor leave me alone till I swallow my spit? If I sin, what do I do to you, O you washer of mankind? Why have you made me your mark? Why have I become a burden to you? Why do you not pardon my transgression and take away my iniquity? For now I shall lie in the earth. You will seek me, but I shall not be. These words from Job are hard, and some of it might be hard to kind of pick up on what's being said. So I want to break it down a little bit for you. Let's start back at Job's response at the beginning. And we can't break down all the idioms, and honestly, some of them I'm still working through myself. Like, what does this mean? And some of it contextually is hard because we're outside of that time, and so it's hard to understand the metaphor. But right off the bat, Job basically says that if you were to take all of my stress and everything that's gone against me, you were to put it in the balances, it would be heavier than the sand of the sea. Job is basically saying, this is more than I can bear. And something that we consistently see throughout this next couple of chapters here is that Job is emphasizing just the amount and immensity of what he's bearing and the difficulty. And what's interesting is verse 4, he attributes it specifically to God, that God has done this to him. And so that's why it says, for the arrows of the Almighty are in me. My spirit drinks their poison, and the tears of God are arrayed against me. He sees God as being actively working against him and actively coming against him. And he makes a point in verse 5 that, look, the reason why I'm complaining, it's not because things have been going well, right? Because no one complains when things are going well. People complain when things are going not well, and when they don't have what they need, and they feel like that someone's coming against them. In this case, the Almighty has come against me. He then says, obviously he makes a couple analogies similar to that. Similar to, I'm not even what I have. It's not something I want. But verse 8 is very interesting. Oh, that I might have my request, and that God would fulfill my hope, that it would please God to crush me, and that he would let loose his hand and cut me off. This goes back to similar to what we saw in chapter 4, in Job basically pleading that God would forget the day of his birth and that he would be cut off from the land of the living. Verse 8 and 9, again, that idea, God, will you just end my life? Just let me go. Let me die. And there's just this element of that it's not happening. And instead, I have to continue to be in suffering, that God continues to have his hand over me. And this is verse 10, this would be my comfort, that I would exult even in the pain unsparingly, because I have not denied the words of the Holy One. He's not ever come against God. He's never said anything ill towards him, but in the sense of that he just wants God to let him go, let it kill me. Verse 11 is interesting, and I'm sure maybe some of you here can experience this. Verses 11 through 13, Job is saying, what is my strength that I should wait? Like, where is this renewal of strength that's supposed to come? When am I going to get that? When does that come so that I might be able to be refreshed? And when is my end that I should be patient? If there's an end to this that is going to be positive, then I just wait through it and I bear through it. And to a certain extent, Job has no promise that has been given to him that in the end it will all work out for good. And that's what's different between the New Testament believer and Job, is we have verses like Romans chapter 8 that talks about that God works all things together for good to those who are called according to his purpose, and that which Christ has started in us, he will bring to completion, to glorification. So we can be patient and endure suffering knowing, and we can do it with joy, knowing that there is an end for us that is positive. Job doesn't have that revelation. He doesn't have that information. And so he's saying, to what is my end that I should be patient? Verse 12, is my strength the strength of stones? Is it immovable? Or is my flesh bronze? Like, am I impenetrable? Am I made of stone? Right? No, I'm not. I'm weak. I'm of flesh. In verse 13, have I any help in me? Is there anything within me that can muster up the strength to get through this when resource has been driven from me? He's like, I have nothing left. And so he then says, he who withholds kindness from a friend forsakes the fear of the Almighty. This is directly targeted at Eliphaz, because Eliphaz has said some hard things to Job in a way that really he's accusing Job of wrongdoing when Job hasn't done wrong. And so he says, he who's withheld kindness from a friend forsakes the fear of the Almighty. And this ultimately is the thing that God brings against the three friends of Job, is that they've not spoken well, but Job has. And so he says, look, you're not being kind to me. You're not fearing God, because if you feared God, you would recognize that there's nothing that I've done here. Verse 15, he continues into that, and he gives some illustrations. He gives 3 or 4 illustrations specifically regarding his brothers and how these friends of his were treating him in a certain way. The conclusion of that, I think, in verse 20 and 21 makes it very clear. They are ashamed because they were confident. They come there and are disappointed. For you have now become nothing. You see my calamity and are afraid. Look, here's the thing. There's this element to which they see Job as this righteous and upright man. And to a certain extent, Eliphaz is scared. And that's what Job is saying. You're scared because you know I was upright, and yet this has happened to me. This disrupts your system. This disrupts that. As long as I'm right, God will do good to me. And so they're afraid. They're afraid because if this calamity comes upon Job, why wouldn't it come upon me? And so he makes that point specifically towards Eliphaz. And then verse 22, he says, have I asked you for anything? Have I asked you to give me a gift? Have I asked you to give me from your wealth some sort of bribe? Have I asked you to deliver me from God's hand, from whatever this is, or redeem me out of the hand of the ruthless? Have I asked you to do anything for me? And the answer is no. I've not asked you to do anything for me. And he says, so why are you making this out to be something? And then verse 24, he says, you've accused me of wrong. You've accused me that I've done something wrong. He says, well, teach me. I'll be silent. I'll listen. Make me know. Help me understand. What have I done wrong? Where did I go astray? And he says, how forceful are upright words, but what reprove? What does reproof from you reprove? What are you telling me I did wrong? Verse 25, that's what he's saying. What did I do wrong? You're saying I must have done something wrong. Tell me what it is. I'll repent of it and I'll change. I can't think of anything. I've been just. I've done the right thing. I haven't done anything wrong. And so he's saying, like you're saying, he's like, but tell me what it is. And verse 26, do you think you can reprove words? He says, the only thing you can argue that I've done is that as a despairing man, someone who is suffering immense suffering, that you could say that by my intense suffering and my speaking out about my suffering, that somehow in my desperation, that you could say that I've done something wrong. That's verse 26. That's the only thing you could say. And then he says in verse 27, if that's the case, then you might as well cast lots over the fatherless, because it's their fault that they're fatherless, and you might as well bargain over me. And so he's pretty strong against Eliphaz. He's coming pretty strong against him, saying I haven't done anything wrong, and Verse 28, but now be pleased to look at me, for I will not lie to your face. Please turn. Let no injustice be done. Turn now, my vindication is at stake. Is there any injustice on my tongue? Cannot my palate discern the cause of my calamity? He's like, I don't know what's wrong with me. How in the world can you? He's like, why wouldn't you just turn away and not do injustice against me, and not speak ill of me, and not speak to my shame, when you know nothing? My vindication's at stake. And I'm pleading my cause that I am just. I haven't done anything wrong to deserve this. And then he continues. He talks about how it is life. And in verse 3, this is where I think there's this months of emptiness, right? So I'm allotted months of emptiness and nights of misery are pointed to me. This has been going on for some time. There's been some time that's passed since these events. In verse 4, we see that Satan is still tormenting him. Because when he lies down in an attempt to flee the difficulty of the day, verse 5 says he's tossing until the dawn in the night. His flesh is clothed with worms and dirt. His skin hardens and breaks out of flesh. This is the skin disorder that he probably has that's been given to him. He says his days are swift and they come to their end without hope. He's just in suffering all day long, and just before he knows it, the day's over and it's running into the next day, but there's no hope of this ending, and there's no hope of change. He really has gotten to the point now, verse 7, that my life is a breath. It's so quick, but yet my eyes are never again going to see good. Is this despair? The eye of him who sees me will behold me will be no more. There's the sense of that I'm not going to be here long. I'm going to be gone soon. And once I go, I'm not coming back. This is the end. And so verse 11, so why not? Why would I restrain my mouth? Why would I restrain my mouth from speaking to the situation of my anguish? I'm going to speak into the anguish of my spirit. I'm going to complain in the bitterness of my soul. And then he turns from addressing Eliphaz and really turns to address God. And in verses 12 and following, he begins an address to God. And it's interesting. He basically tells God, am I the sea or a sea monster that you would set guard over me? He's like, what kind of creature am I that you would guard over me and in a sense, hedge me in? He loathes his life. Leave me alone. Verse 16, leave me alone, for my days are a breath. Verse 17, what is man that you make so much of him that you set your heart on him? Like, why are you so fascinated with man, God? You visit him every morning. You test him every moment. You're always testing me with all of these things. Why would you do this? Verse 19, why wouldn't you just look away from me and leave me alone until I die? And then verse 20, if I sin, what did I do to you? How is it that it affects you? Why is it wrong towards you? Why is it anything against you? Why have you made me your mark? Why have I become why do I concern you? Why do I matter to you? And if I do matter to you, verse 21, why don't you pardon my transgression? Why don't you take away my iniquity? For now I shall lie in the earth. You will seek me, but I shall not be. God, ultimately, you're bringing me to my death. And so there's this element to which Job is despairing. He's seeing the circumstances, and he's saying, God, just leave me alone. Like, stop testing me. Stop punishing me. Stop. If there's something I've done wrong, tell me what it is. But I don't think there is. And why are you just pursuing after me like this? And so, again, what we're going to see is his friends respond to this. They're going to respond, and ultimately, they're going to demand that Job repents of the evil, whatever that is, and for what he's saying against God. And so that's something that specifically is going to be addressed. God is actually going to address these specific statements towards the end of Job. God addresses all of these statements and gives him an answer that is satisfactory to him, although maybe not satisfactory sometimes in the moment to what we're dealing with, but is satisfactory. We'll talk about that as we go moving forward. So anyways, men's breakfast tomorrow. Welcome to all the men who are able to come 8 o'clock tomorrow. We'd love to have you. And I enjoyed doing this with you. I hope we can kind of keep going and doing this. I'm enjoying going through the book of Job, really taking some fresh eyes at it. And it's been good doing that study on my own. So hopefully you're benefiting. God bless you all. Have a great Friday, great weekend, and look forward to seeing you again on Sunday in service, as well as Monday doing the Daily Moment with you then. God bless you all. Have a great rest of your weekend.